All right, good morning, afternoon, hello. It's right after, what time is it? 1 o'clock on the East Coast. All right, this is just a quick impromptu video wanted to do as a result of a post from one of my viewers here, LB Stringfellow, who just told me the great news that, so I got this comment just yesterday. Today is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Just got this comment from LB Stringfellow yesterday that he is getting his first pair of LaScalas and he wanted to know how I was feeling about my LaScalas after doing the Woofer replacement update. So I figured I'd do a quick impromptu video here, just to kind of cover some of that and some of the things that's kind of in my mind and move forward with that. So again, happy Memorial Day 2021. We made it. The masks are coming off and people deciding to get together. It's a good time. So grateful for that. Um, Now, as far as the speakers go, both woofers have been replaced, and I'm not even sure how long it's been now. It's been at least a month or two now. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to listen to them as much as I've liked, but I've been listening here and there on and off. I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't do this full time. I have a full-time job that takes much of my time, much as well as my family. And the summer is coming; it's getting warmer, so people are wanting to do more and more things out of the house. We've been locked in for a year. Great, but as far as the speakers, you see that the first thing I did was because of replacing the two woofers. Now, the first reason is before I even started about the idea of changing the woofers was because of just that one little bit of distortion somewhere around the 80 to 100 hertz frequency range. I would get this little distortion and it bothered me, and I dealt with it for a couple of years, and then I was like, if I just change this one thing, these speakers will be perfect. So I did the one, and then starting to feel like, wow, now it's like fixing one side but not the other. So I just did both. So they've both been in now for a couple of months, and the first thing after doing both sides is I felt that the dynamic range and the size of the sound got bigger. It was fuller, more dynamic. The sound stage was wider and bigger. So the first thing I did was move the speakers that used to be on that wall there, which is a very narrow space between these two areas. The distance between that wall and this wall is 19 feet. So I mean, it's a pretty good size, but that's the difference there. The difference from this wall to that wall is 27 feet. So I get to open them up. So I moved it from this wall to that wall. And that was the first thing, and moved them a little bit further apart. In the beginning, I moved them toward my listings position, which is where the camera is sitting now, maybe up forward, and just to give it some room around the speakers. And it was good, but I kind of felt like I was losing some of it, so I pushed them back again. Then the thought was, well, what about the sound that's going to be the reflecting sound back off the back wall, which is why I put my makeshift um, absorbers on it, which is just um, a moving blanket that you use for moving and covering things. So I folded that and put that on this side, and I've got a little fleece blanket on this side just to kind of dampen the reflections off the rear wall, and I think that helps. But moving them in this position gave me more air to breathe, for the sound to breathe, more room for the sound to expand. But still doing the toe in, angling the speakers directly to where you are right now in the center where the seat lies. So speaking of the seat, you see I've taken my Henry Miller clone chair back into my office, and now I'm using this anti-gravity chair. So that came as a result of watching The Pursuit of Perfection. Perfect, I think, is the website. Not the website, but well, they actually have a website too, but the YouTuber, British guy, I can't even think of it, but it's The Pursuit of Perfect Sound, I think is what it's called. And in one of his videos, he shows someone listening to a pair of stacks of the number 25 rails, so 3 and 3, 6 stacks, and some I think it was some Kef Blade speakers. At any rate, in that video, the guy that was listening had an anti-gravity chair, much nicer than this, leather and very comfortable looking. And I went looking at the rail number 25s, which is kind of a dream for me to have a pair of stacks, but way more money than I can ever spend. But I kind of fell in love with the chair, so I started looking. I wanted a chair like this that I could collapse, fold up, and put aside when I'm not actively listening to music, instead of having the Henry Miller in the floor all the time, because we use this room for other things and need the space. So started looking on Amazon and finding this chair, and I could find this chair on Amazon somewhere around 120 bucks. And I just played around with the idea for a minute, but never actually bought it. Just recently, we had a Big Lots open up in our local area here, and I went in there, and they had this same chair on sale for $79. I was like, well, how? I might as well get that. It's right here. I can pick it up and walk out with it and make a savings. And then, of course, they also gave a discount for military, so I took that as well. And it was like $74, $75 by the time I'm finished with it. So I wanted to talk about this chair just a minute, because it comes with a little cup holder there. You can just remove that when you fold it up, fold it away. And the thing about it is you can lean all the way back and you get this nice, probably can't see me now, reflect. The thing about this is this position. I found that depending on where I positioned it in my listening position there, it changed the sound that I was hearing from my speakers. I can get a more direct sound, or I could get a less direct sound from the tweeters. So that was kind of interesting to me, and I can find that sweet spot just by moving back and forth in my chair, depending on the kind of music that I'm listening to at the particular moment. But that was a new addition. So moving the speakers around, getting a chair that gives me a little bit more flexibility, and being able to be comfortable. And then the other thing is how I'm listening to music. One of the main easiest things I do is just use my iPad. And on the iPad, I have a dongle and an Audio Quest on Dragonfly. I have the black version, which is the cheaper version, and then just a 3 1/4 inch audio cable connected directly to the Technics, and I'll listen there. And so that's a quick, easy way, and you've seen that in some of my videos. And of course, CDs and records. So I've got a changer there for the CDs and a turntable for albums. Okay, but how do I like? I absolutely love the change. I know that some other comments have talked about, I can't think of the other brand of speakers, but a common speaker for the Clips line that you can use as a replacement. EV is a short name, but I can't think of what it's called at the moment. Brain lock. But at any rate, I don't hear that distortion. Music is loud and crisp. And I'm always a little concerned about turning him up too loud. With the Technics will has an overload feature. So if I'm, for instance, turning on the system, and the volume may be up a little loud. I didn't turn it down from previous. It may clip, but it'll stop and put itself in overload position, and then just stop the sound and kind of protects the speakers that way. The LaScalas, of course, are very sensitive, so you don't need a lot. And I generally will play it at about 50% volume when I really want to crank it up, but in general, 25% volume is plenty enough. Every now and then, I really want to fill this room. I may creep up toward that 75% volume, but I've not yet been past that because it's actually probably too loud to hear beyond that point. So in that point, for those of you who are looking at getting a Heritage line LaScala, these are vintage, and they weigh about 120, 123 pounds. One of the other YouTube channels I watch, I can't think of the name of it, but there's a channel where they unbox, because they've unboxed a brand new pair of LaScalas, and the new ones come in 2 pieces. So your horns at the top are one section, then your woofer cabinet is the other section. But between the two, They are about 200 pounds, so it's considerably heavier for a brand new pair. Um, and if you have the money for that, because the cost is pretty high and the weight is pretty high and the size is pretty big. So if you're considering that, what you need to have is space. Don't put them in a little 10 by 10 room. It's overkill. So you need space. They need space. I've watched Andrew Robinson's videos. He's one of my favorite YouTubers as well, where he's had a brand new pair and he used them in his room. And I don't think his room is really all that big, but he used them in the room. And one of the comments he made was that LaScalas need space. Great speaker, but they need space. You don't want to put them in a little room. So my office is about 19 by 11 long and 11 wide. And I've got a box unit 5.1 system, a Yamaha system that I use in there. And they're just little skinny towers and little bookshelf. I mean, not even bookshelf, very small speakers. And it fills that room pretty well. They used to be in this room, but I kind of upgraded. But these would not work in that room. It just, there's no way. First of all, there's just no room for them between doors. So that's another thing. I have a door over there. You know, if this was a corner horn, the Klipsch horn, you need a square or rectangular room that has corners, because you need to put those in a corner so they can be corner loaded properly. This room really wouldn't work, even in the far part where I have my home theater speaker set. I mean, they could work, but they really need space. Okay, but great speakers nonetheless. But sound-wise, again, they need space because it's a big sound. It is a party sound. But I still really enjoy listening to music with them. The reason why I went for the LaScalas, because I saw them when I was in the military many years ago in Germany in the PX, and I first heard them the first time. I think I might have heard the Klipsch horn, and I thought they were amazing. And I said I would always like to get one sometime, but the price, I could never buy them new. I just wouldn't. I just couldn't see spending that much money. But I would watch Youth Man's videos, of course. Everybody's watched Youth Man's videos. And in the beginning, he had the 3 LaScalas up. Of course, now he's left the club. He sold his LaScalas, and now he's all JTR, which is great. And he's mentioned that the LaScalas were not great for music, but I disagree. I like them for music. Just so much range. Your dynamics are great. As always, Klipsch, the high end, can be a little harsh. It can be a little more than people would like, but you fix that with toe in, you fix that with angles, you fix that with a chair like this where you can adjust how much highs you get in your listening position. And of course, you can always tweak it, equalize it. Okay, but I think, overall, it's a good option, and you can, it's a good choice. Okay, like I said, not a professional YouTuber. Life goes on around me. Had to get my beverage of choice here. But my daughter was leaving she was leaving, and just needed to see her out. But again, life goes on around us. And this is just a hobby that you and I may share in, just a guy in the basement. This is just something I do for fun. I enjoy sharing with you about, what's important to me, what I enjoy, and maybe you enjoy it too. I mean, I've only gotten into this because I've watched other people's videos and see what they've enjoyed, and it sparked me to reunite and reinvigorate this love for vinyl and love for music and love for speakers and love for gear. I know it's something that keeps us out of trouble, keeps us in the basement maybe too long, but it's better than being out and about, causing and getting into trouble. But at any rate, so I have changed out the LaScala woofers. I still have the original woofers. Currently I have the Kreitz crossovers in here. I also do have the AK AK it's not AKG. I can't think of what it's called. AK Engineering. It is AK Engineering crossovers as well. I've had them both in. I kind of like the AK Engineering a little more, and I only have the lowest level. Al at AKG, he's in Maryland somewhere. His crossovers go from a gentle slope to an extreme slope. I've only listened to mine, of course, and to me, it just gives it a little bit more edge. Um, and it's hard to really describe that, but I am now using the Kreitz because the Kreitz is basically a replica of the original, just changing out the capacitors for the old can capacitors to sonic caps, and it gives you a nice clean sound. So that's what's in here now, but I have that option. I can always switch out my crossover. I can always go back to the original LaScala woofers if I like. But I have noticed that the originals, even though they don't look worn, but just being old and dusty, and the movement has had to have some kind of degradation over the last 40 years. And I do have that little bit of distortion, like I said, between that 80 to 100 hertz. So I haven't heard that at all with these new replacement woofers. Sound is clean, sound is strong. I'm kind of amazed at how strong and clean they are by comparison. And I said to myself, why did I wait so long? Go ahead and do this. So getting a pair of old LaScalas from someone, which these were in somebody's basement that belonged to their father, and he had them, and his wife said, hey, you got to do something with those big giant speakers in the basement. We don't use them, we don't listen to them, you might as well sell them. And he did, and I benefited from that $800 purchase, a couple $100 in speaker replacements, a couple $100 in crossover replacements, versus buying a brand new pair of LaScalas that are 200 pounds instead of 120 pounds, that are $12,000 versus 800, and you pay a couple extra hundred. I mean, even if you spend, I've seen another guy on YouTube, he spent, he bought some old LaScalas, and he bought replacements, pretty much replaced all of the parts, and he only spent about $2,700. You're still somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,000 to $10,000 savings for practically the same thing, because Klipsch has used pretty much the same speaker woofers and horns throughout this 70-year journey that Klipsch has been making these speakers. And I'm sure there's some improvements in the new, but how much more improved can it really be? But the bigger thing is, again, I can't stress this enough, space. No matter whether you buy them vintage or you buy them brand new, they need room to breathe. They need room for that sound to fill that room. You get it in a little bit of room, it's gonna be way overwhelming. But like I said, this is a 19 by 27 room, and if it works out pretty well. Of course, do you need to improve on acoustics, and maybe even the system, because I have a pretty old Technic system here, my Denon over there. There is a sound difference between the two. I kind of like it on the older Technics. But again, I'm really happy with them. I don't think I'll ever get rid of them. My daughter's already claimed them, said, if ever there's a time that I want to get rid of them, or Daddy goes bye-bye, she's already claimed as hers. I don't know what she's going to do with them, because they're not easy to move around and not easy to put in a small place. But I have taken them out of this room upstairs, put them in the garage, because I kind of had a moment where I was planning to get rid of everything, just because of space and the WAF factor. But I said no, and I had to bring them back down. And it's a painful journey taking these heavy things up and down a set of stairs. So you have to know that you want them. You have to know that you have the space for them. You have to know that you have the time to sit and listen, because they need to be used. They shouldn't be sat in the corner for 40 years and never played. That's just wrong. They need to work. They need to play. They need to have fun with your vinyl, with your CDs, with your streaming music. Whatever you're playing, they enjoy it. These speakers love to work. let them work. Okay, so anyway, I think that's about all I got to say about that. But hope someone watches this, and I hope that LB Stringfellow has gotten his LaScalas and that he enjoys his LaScalas and that they're great for him in his space. So thanks so much for watching. Magdimity Splits. That's my new name. I'll tell you that story some other time. It's sensitive. Nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you on the next go round.